Hi guys, my name is Sanjeet. Let me introduce you a little bit about myself. I'm a computer science major, focused deeply into game development. I love to make games and have passion making games and definitely doing it for a living. If you are a person who definitely wants to learn how to make games and have interest and have zero experience into game development whatsoever, this is absolutely the right tutorial for you. So let's talk about how games are made. So mainly games are made from computer game software we call game engines. Game engines are basically what we use to design and program games for game consoles, mobile devices, and personal computers. In this tutorial, we are mainly going to be focusing in the Unity game engine, and the programming language we are going to be using is mainly C Sharp. So first, what you want to do is definitely install Unity into your machine. And it doesn't matter if you have a Windows or a Mac machine, Unity is compatible with both operating systems. So just Google it up, Unity download. This is the first link that shows up. So choose your Unity. I already have it installed, but I'll guide you how to download it anyways, because there's some components you're going to need when you download it. So one, you want to download the personal version. Don't worry about the Plus or the Pro Enterprise. Those are more professional editions. We're only using personal. Personal is definitely good for beginners because this is going to teach you all the structured and advanced skills. So download the installer. So it's going to ask me to open it up. Open. So this is just to download and install the game engine. This tutorial we're mainly just going to set up the game engine. So basically I'm just going to show you how you're going to use Unity. Next tutorial we're actually going to start getting to design and how to code. So let's continue. License, agree to it. So these are the components you want to install. All these components are already selected for you. So definitely the important components you want to make sure that you select are definitely the first one here, Unity 5.6.0 F3. Documentation, standard assets. Standard assets is basically some of the scripts that are already built inside the game engine for you, and some of the designs, the layouts, and some of the game objects. Some of the stuff are built in for you. We'll explore that as Unity finish installing. Some of the example projects are built in for you, so that's just for you to look at. So definitely check Android build support and to check WebGL. So just to confirm, these are the main ones you should check. Unity 5.6.0 F3, documentation, standard assets, example projects, Android build supports, and WebGL. Definitely make sure these stay checked, and definitely check them into your components. And any other additional components like iOS build support, if you want, you can check that. You can check this, and that. In fact, you can check everything if you want. After you check everything that should be checked, at least, hit continue. Alright, I don't need to install, but once you hit continue, it's going to select the destination. Definitely, just once your destination gets selected, hit continue from there. Definitely then hit download, install. Once it's done installing, it'll just output the summary saying it's done being installed. So I don't need to download it. I already have it. Alright, so while your Unity is installing and configuring, it may take a little time. If you have especially Windows, it might take a little while. For Macs, it's not as slow, it's more faster, but let's give that some time. Okay, so I assume your game engine is done downloading and it's completely installed into your machine. So let's open it up. So my game engine is installed in my applications folder in my Mac. So I'm going to open this up. Alright, so this is what your pop-up should look like. So when you open up like your Unity game engine, if you're a complete beginner and you don't have a Unity account, it's going to ask you to sign up or sign in. If you don't have an account, definitely sign up. So this is my account right here. I already signed up, I'm signed in, so I don't have to do any of that, but definitely make an account because you need your Unity to be online. Making an account is totally free. There's nothing that's going to go wrong. Just because in order to access Unity and use all of its features, you have to have an account. It's completely free, doesn't take, I think it just takes 10 minutes to set up, at least 10 minutes, if not less time. All right, so I assume after you set up your account, you're ready to move on to the next part. So what you're gonna do is click, since you're creating a project for the first time, click new. All right, so now it's asking for 2D and 3D games. In this game tutorial, we're mainly gonna focus on 3D games, but we will get into 2Ds in later on. I'll have a separate tutorial set up for 2D games, but in this one, we're gonna do 3D. So 3D should be highlighted right here. So 3D is checked. And then project name, you can call it whatever project name you want. This is just the organization, the location. It's just, this is where your project's most likely going to be set up. And the organization, that's just your username. Don't worry about that. Yeah, mine is Seto Kaiba22. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! That's actually got me into game development. Alright, so once you have a name, this is an optional thing, but I'm just going to show you how to do it. Some of the stuff that's already added on for you inside the game engine. So these are asset packages. So when you're going to add the asset packages, definitely check 2D, cameras, characters, cross-platform input, effects, environment, particle systems, prototyping, utility, and vehicles. Hit done and hit create project. I already have a project set up for you called game dev tutorials, so I don't have to worry about that, but just hit create. You can call your project name whatever you want. So I'm going to go back to project and open up game dev tutorials. Alright, and this is how your screen should look like. Sorry, my window layout is set differently, so let me just set it back to default. When you open it up, this is how it's actually going to look like. So this is the main camera right here. The main camera is basically just shows you the camera preview of your scene. So basically, kind of like in a movie when you're filming, you want to definitely film it in a camera so you know like how you're filming the scene. Same in making a video game. Only thing is your camera is in a virtual game engine, so the camera is gonna kind of catch it catches the camera preview for you. So when you want to playtest your game, it'll be testable. So this is a default window layout. So let's go back to Windows and Layout and set it 2x3. And I'll tell you why to set it 2x3. So see your camera preview right here. Your preview is exactly the same way underneath where my arrow is pointing right here. So when you hit play, you can see the scene you set up and test play your game exactly at the same time. Alright, so I hope that makes sense. So let's just get familiar with the Unity game engine, the basic structures, before we actually learn some C# and designing the game. So these are some of the assets that are kind of built in for you. So there are 2D assets, animation, materials, prefabs, and scripts. You can look around all these. There are actually some objects that are kind of designed for us. Let's move this aside. Sorry, folks. It's just Unity has a little bit of issues sometimes. Okay. All right. So this is our cars folder. You can explore any one of them you want. So some of the things already built inside the cars are the audio, the material, the models. Hey, what do you know? Some of the prefab designs are already exist inside. So if you want to like drag and drop some prefabs, you can do that. But we're not going to get into any of these right now. We'll get into that later on. And these are some C# scripts that already exist for you. But we're going to learn how to code our own scripts too. We're not just going to take other scripts and not understand. We're going to understand some of these scripts, what they do, and we're also going to create some of our own scripts. Usually in the game engine, there are certain scripts that might be too much work for multiple developers to handle. So some of the scripts, just to make it easier when it comes to making games, most likely some of them are already built inside the box for you. But we're also going to learn how to create some of our own scripts outside the box. And that's going to be the next tutorial. But let's focus on this right now. So yeah, definitely just explore around. Uh, Definitely the important stuff we're going to be learning when it comes to creating games are definitely one of them is the particle systems. That's actually one of my favorite. That's actually one of my favorite parts. That actually has pretty cool effects. We'll learn that later on, though. So right now, what you're gonna do is go inside, go into your game object, and go under 3D object, and you can pick whichever object you want to drag. I'm just gonna click on cube because it's easy for me. So, what do you know? Underneath my scene right here, my cube shows up. So let's also look at my main camera. It's laid out exactly the same way as it is right here. Sorry, I just not able to talk properly. All right, so let's talk about some of the vectors and positions and scales. So this hand button over here is kind of just to move your cursor around. If you have a Mac, if you want to rotate to see like in a different angle, press Alt and then just rotate. Click on your mouse just to rotate. All right, that's not really anything big. That's just to if you want to like look at your view at a different angle. That when you're designing the game, that's fine. All right, so let's look at this button right here. So what this does is basically this is a positioning button. So it just repositions our object at a certain axis, whichever position we want to. So let's click right here. So it's rotating, sorry, not rotating, it's moving my position towards the x-axis. So it's just basically initializing it to a new position. So this is my x position. So let's say I want to change my y position. I'm going to move this down a little bit. So now this is my new y position. And I want to change my z position. This is my new z position. So this is my x, my y, and my z. So basically what I did is just move my cube from one certain specific position towards another specific position. So this is my new position. So I don't actually have to even just move it from here. I don't move it from this compass. I can instead just type it here if I want. So if I want to transform the position, let's say 4, -1, and 6, it moves it for me. I'm going to reset it back to its original position. All right. So right here is rotate. So let's say I'm going to rotate the Z. So my rotation is 8.779. If I'm going to rotate my X, oops, I didn't want to rotate both of them. Let's rotate. All right. So I just want to rotate the X. All right. So it's moving a little bit. Basically, what this rotation is doing is just tilting your object at a certain angle. If we want to rotate, let's say if we want to rotate at like a certain specific point, we can either just do it from here, or to make it easier, if you want a certain rotation, let's say for example, I want to rotate all of them to 90. I can do that easily. Or if I'm going to rotate here to, if I want to just rotate my z-axis, I can just make it like 3.45. Just play around with this. It's actually it'll make more sense as you play within it more and more. All right. So what this is a scale button. So basically, we can rescale any of our axes of our object. So if I'm going to rescale my x, see how it changes? It decreases the size. If I rescale my y, my z, it takes care of that. Or I can just enter it here. I want to make this 5, 5, and 5. Or if I'm going to rescale all at once, it took care of that for me. I want to reset this back to what it should be. All right. So now what I'm going to talk about is some of these components that are built in. This is just a mesh filter right here, and this is just a box collider. So what a mesh filter basically does is it just filters your object. It just filters and initializes the design. This is the renderer. It just render basically just what it mainly does is basically just it renders your object. And then this is basically the collider. So basically what box collider does is basically, you know, in games how we have collision detection. So literally what a box collider does is basically just computes collision for us. So we don't even have to code collision inside our game. Box collider the colliders take care of for us. And if you want to definitely look into what kind of components we have, there's a lot of type of components. In the next tutorial, we're going to actually get into more components and we're going to get into more scripting. So I'm just going to explain a little bit more about the camera. So the camera right here is just showing the camera preview. If I'm going to rotate the preview a little bit, I can do that as well. Alright, nothing rocket science about it. And then right here, this is just a directional light. This isn't really anything big. It just kind of like makes the graphics more clear. Or let's say if I'm going to get rid of it, it just makes it a little bit more dimmer. It could look nice and depending what you're trying to make, but I want my graphics to be a little bit more brighter. So I'm going to go to game object and click under light and go to directional light. Alright, so what I want to do now is basically just save this scene. So it's asking me to save inside the assets. So what I'm going to call this is level 1. Alright, so now if I see level 1's inside the assets, but I'm going to organize this a little bit. So I'm going to tell you what folders we should create. So right click and go under create and click folder. So under folder, I'm just going to call this scene and just drag my level 1 scene in here. Then I'm just going to create another folder called prefabs. A prefab is basically a game object that basically we want to like save towards our folders in case we want to use them in the future. So like let's say if I'm going to drag my game object my cube object right here, I can just put in my prefabs folder. So now it just saved in here. So let's say if I delete it right here, a prefab is basically a drag and drop. So we just drag and drop our game object that was already designed or we designed ourselves. Alright, so I got it back where I want it. And the good thing about prefabs alike is whatever position we initialize it, it will be saved in exactly that same position. So let's say I want to change this to 5 and I want to change this to 3. I hit apply. Guess what? It's already saved for us. Alright. I'm going to reset the positioning. Alright. So now our other folder we want to create is a materials folder. Materials, I'll get into materials in the next lesson. But it's actually nothing but just changing the color of our object, getting a little bit more creative. We'll definitely get into that next tutorial. And then I want to also create a scripts folder. So we're going to get into scripts now, into C#. So we're not going to code anything in this tutorial, but basically what we do is basically we're just going to go inside our script folder. So inside the game engine right here, in this scene, we just do our design and then we do want to code all our game objects. There's actually a source code that when you download Unity, it comes with it. It's called monodevelop. I'll show you how it looks like. So basically, I'm going to create my C# script. I'm going to call this controller. So now these are the code that exists and we want to be able to edit the code. So I'm just going to click this. Alright, so it's going to take a little time to, or not. Oh, somehow my monodevelop didn't open up. That's alright, I'm just going to go to my preferences in my Unity and just make sure it's initialized to monodevelopment. Alright, so it's script editor is definitely monodevelopment that's built in. I'm just going to close out of Atom for a sec. That's for another tutorial I'm actually trying to use for that's more for Python. So I'm going to open up. Alright, now my monodevelop's opening up. Alright, so let me just look for the script. Here it is. Alright, so these are the Unity game engine imports that's built in for us. So we're definitely using system.collections. We're using definitely system generic connect collection. So these are basically that's mainly just for mono development more than our Unity game engine, but we're definitely using this code towards our game engine. So basically this void start, this is just to initialize where we want to like when we run the game, like how the game starts, how the scene of the world starts. And update is basically as we play the game, how the frame of the game updates per second. Alright, so I hope this tutorial is helpful. If it not doesn't make sense, I'll definitely try to clear up in the next tutorial, but definitely thank you for watching and please subscribe to my tutorial